Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at EX3, and EX3 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be the Trials of the Four Great Dragons deck, or Four Great Dragons for short. So just one big thing to note is this is not going to be a very competitive deck. This is more of just a cheap budget casual deck in order to have easy access at a playable deck to be able to pick up and play the game. So I think that this is going to be a pretty fun and interesting deck, considering the whole core gimmick of the deck is to be able to utilize your Trials of the Four Great Dragons to be able to play out your level 6s, to toolbox your level 6s, to do whatever they need to do. So with all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, the set doesn't really have a Digitama for you, so I would recommend picking up 4 copies of Viximon, just because Viximon is going to be one of the best draw engine Digitamas that we have because of its interaction and synergy with our options. So while it's underneath a Digimon as an inheritable, if we use an option that costs 2 or more, then we get to draw 1 card, making it just a very good synergistic Digitama for the deck. If you want to run a 5th Digitama, you could, or if you just want to swap Digitamas to something else that you find beneficial, then by all means do so. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Cutemon. So this is a flex spot for the deck, and this is, again, one of the few outside cards that you'd want to pick up, and Cutemon is in the deck solely just because it is one of the few yellow rookie floodgates that yellow has to be playing around with. Shutting off the opponent from being able to reduce the cost of their Digivolutions could be pretty helpful, especially against those green matchups, but again, this could really be anything you feel like you want to run if you want to run something a little bit more synergistic or beneficial for the deck. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Agumon. So this is the brand new EX3 version of Agumon, and this is acting very similar to Viximon, adding some extra card draw into the deck for utilizing our 4 Great Dragons and our option of Trial of the Four Great Dragons. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Patamon. So Patamon is going to be the stereotypical digger or searcher for the deck, just to try to help the deck's overall consistency. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gatomon. So Gatomon has that same first ability as we just saw with our Patamon for extra consistency, on top of the fact that its inheritable ability is actually pretty important for how the deck wants to function, allowing our Digimon with 4 Great Dragons in their traits to be able to have the rush ability. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Veedramon. So this is the brand new EX3 version of Veedramon, and again, it's doing something very similar to what we just saw with our Gatomon, except instead of an on-play ability to be able to dig, it's a when digivolving ability to dig. So it also has that same inheritable ability for our 4 Great Dragons to have rush, so that way we actually can utilize them as best as we possibly can, because usually in Digimon, once a card is played for that turn, if it doesn't have that rush ability, then it won't be able to attack. So it just makes playing our level 6s off of our option card even more playable and even more important for the deck. Next, on to the ultimates, I'm going to be running 4 copies of AeroVeedramon. So AeroVeedramon is a card that's going to help us set up our options, so that way we don't necessarily have to actually pay the 8 to use it, where when we digivolve up into this card, if we don't have a Trials of the Four Great Dragons in play, then we get to place 1 into our battle area instead. So this is just immediately placing it into the battle area, so you don't get its first ability, but you will be able to set it up to be able to get its delay ability at a later turn. Then during the opponent's turn, this is adding some extra defense into the deck, where if you have a Digimon with 4 Great Dragons in its traits in play or a Trials in play, then this Digimon gains blocker, and his inheritable ability is the same as that secondary ability to be able to give whatever's on top of him the blocker ability as well, again for some added defense. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Angewomon. So this is the brand new EX3 version of Angewomon, and again, like our AeroVeedramon, it has the ability to help set up our Trials if we don't already have one in play, and then it's going to take advantage of the fact that we want our Trials in play to have some extra control, where when we play a 4 Great Dragons or a Trials in our battle area, then one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP for the turn, and its inheritable ability, again, is just copying that secondary ability native to it to try to spread that minus 3000 DP to our higher stage Digimon. Next, onto our level 6s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Goldramon. So Goldramon is going to be the Digimon we actually want to Digivolve all the way up into, because he actually does have a When Digivolving ability for us to actually gain advantage and benefits from. So his When Digivolving ability just simply allows us to grab back a 4 Great Dragons traded card from our trash into our hand, so that way we could try to reuse our cards as best as we possibly can, namely our Trials of the 4 Great Dragons. Then on top of that, he has a nice when attacking ability that actually has some pretty decent control and damage output attached to it, where we get to have one of the opponent's Digimon gain minus 6,000 DP for the turn, which is pretty decent because if we pair that with Angewomon, then it's going to be minus 9,000 total, which is pretty decent. But on top of that, if we have a Megidramon, Azulongmon, and Megidramon in our trash, then we get to trash the top 2 cards of the opponent's security stack, which is some pretty decent damage potential. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Magnadramon. So Magnadramon is a pretty decent card just because its on-play ability states that all of the opponent's Digimon gain security attack -1, which is a pretty decent fog effect to try to help limit some of the opponent's potential damage output and try to keep us in the game a little bit longer. And if this card was played off of our trials, then all of the opponent's Digimon get security attack -2 instead, which is just pretty decent at, again, trying to limit the amount of damage the opponent could potentially do to us. Then it has a nice on-delete ability to take advantage of with our trials, where if we don't have a trials in play, because we might have just used it to play this card, then we get to place 1 trials from our hand back onto the battle area, so that way we could try to reload it and use it again next turn. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Azulongmon. So Azulongmon is another card we're going to be playing off of our trials because, again, like Magnadramon, he has a nice on-play ability where we get to draw 2 cards natively, and if he was played by said trials, then we get to gain 2 memory also. And on top of that, he has that same secondary ability as what we just saw with our Magnadramon, where if we don't have a Trials in play, then we get to play 1 Trials for free, which again just helps keep a Trials on the field, so that way we could constantly use and reuse it. And then the last Mega and last Digimon of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Megidramon. So Megidramon is going to be another control tool for this deck to use. It also is treated as a Chaos Gatomon, so this card actually does have some potential outside of this deck if you want to think about utilizing it outside of 4 Great Dragons. But regardless, inside of 4 Great Dragons, it's still pretty good with the on-play ability of deleting a level 5 or lower Digimon. And then if we used our Trials to play this card, then we get to delete a level 6 or lower, which again is still pretty decent at trying to manipulate and control the opponent's field and keep Digimon off of it, so that way we could try to aggress it and utilize our cards as best as we possibly can. Then, like Azulongmon and Magnadramon, it also has that same on-delete ability, where if we don't have a Trials in play, then we get to play 1 for free, which again is just a pretty good ability to be able to make the deck as playable as we possibly can, as long as we have extra Trials in our hand to use. Next, on to the Tamers, I'm going to be running 3 copies of TK. So this is the BT1 version of TK, and this is going to be one of the most expensive cards in the deck, and it's a really good card for the deck just because it helps with its overall consistency and be able to set up our plays. So it's going to be your stereotypical memory fixing tamer, where it's going to just hard set our memory to 3 if it's ever less than 3, which is just pretty good at allowing us to play our cards as efficiently as we possibly can. Then on top of that, its on-play ability is what's going to be the big draw for this card is the fact that we get to look at our security stack, so having that information is already super valuable on what's in our security for the most part, and then we get to add any card from among it into our hand, but if that card is yellow, then we get to recover 1 and then shuffle our security stack, so it's just replacing whatever card we're going to be taking as long as it's yellow. But ideally, it's going to try to help us find our parts and pieces to be able to make sure that we can make whatever stacks and find whatever Digimon we need to find. And then lastly, onto the options, I'm going to be running 3 copies of God Flame. So God Flame not only is going to be a card to help us remove the opponent's Digimon from the field by giving one of their Digimon minus 6,000, so we're going to pair this up with our Goldramon to be able to combine the DP reductions to minus 12,000 on one stack or 6,000 on 2 different Digimon. And then on top of that, the real draw for utilizing this card on top of its removal potential is the fact that we then get to return a 4 Great Dragons traded card from our trash into our hand, so that way we could try to keep reusing the cards that we need to. And it also is going to act as a nice security threat where its security ability activates its main. And then the last option card and last card of the deck is going to be the key card of the deck, and that's going to be our Trials of the 4 Great Dragons at 4 copies. So Trials of the 4 Great Dragons we're ideally not trying to pay 8 for, but if we have to, then we still get at least to draw a card replacing itself, and this is going to go into the battle area. But we have a couple of different ways to be able to set this up and play it for free. So we could try to set up its secondary main ability of Delay, where we get to play one Digimon with 4 Great Dragons in its traits from our hand for free. And then if we played the Digimon this way, then it can't Digivolve into a level 7, and it's going to be deleted at the end of the opponent's turn. But that's okay, just because we're going to have Rush in our stack to be able to utilize the Digimon that we're going to be playing off of this card right away. And we do have 3 really powerful level 6 Digimon that want to be played off of this option card. Then its security ability at worst is going to have it go into the battle area, so that way we could use the delay ability later when we need to, making it just a very powerful card for the deck to use, on top of all of the other native synergies that the deck has centered around this card. So as far as the deck's basic playlines, it's really not a super complicated deck to figure out how to play. You're usually going to want to try in raising to get up into your level 4s, so that way when we move our level 4, we can Digivolve into our level 5, and it doesn't necessarily matter which level 5 that we Digivolve into, because they both have the same when Digivolving ability to be able to try to set up our Trials of the 4 Great Dragons for free, rather than trying to hard play it for 8, which is a little bit expensive to do, because we only care about the delay ability to be able to play a 4 Great Dragons for free for the turn. Then it doesn't necessarily matter in raising which one you Digivolve up into in terms of our level 4s, just because the inheritable ability is the same to be able to give our 4 Great Dragons the rush ability for when they're going to be played off of our option, assuming our Digimon is actually going to live that extra turn. And then ideally the best Digimon that we want to Digivolve up into, as far as our rookies, is going to be our Agumon, but in case that we do need to just hard play Digimon and we're not necessarily seeing our parts and pieces, we do have Patamon as another really good card to just be able to dig with. Same thing with our Gatomon. If we don't necessarily see our rookies, then we're not necessarily afraid of being able to play our Gatomon because it's getting a level 4 on the field to be able to Digivolve into our level 5 the following turn, or if we have enough memory, just Digivolve into our level 5 right away, and it's still just trying to help be a consistency tool similarly to Patamon here. So there's just a lot of decent ways to be able to use your low-end Digimon to have some decent flexibility to be able to get up and play and see all of the parts and pieces that you need to. And then ideally the card you want to Digivolve up into as far as one of the 4 Great Dragons is going to be Goldramon as the main Digimon in level 6 we're trying to use for the level 6, just because he, compared to the others, actually has a when Digivolving ability to be able to recycle our other 4 Great Dragons, so that way we could try to take advantage of him, and his when attacking ability is still pretty decent whether we're trying to control the field or if we have everything set up in our trash, then burning the opponent's security can still be pretty decent. Then, as I stated before, Trials of the 4 Great Dragons is the whole center point of the deck, so the delay ability to be able to play a 4 Great Dragons is really powerful. Even though we can't use it to Digivolve into a level 7, it doesn't necessarily matter because they all will have Rush off of our level 4s. So, as far as the toolboxing that we have access to, we have Megidramon to try to delete the opponent's Digimon, we have Magnadramon to try to stall the opponent out with security attack minus, and we have Azulongmon for some extra card draw and memory generation to be able to try to make more powerful plays possible, with all of them having the on-delete ability to be able to replay our Trials of the 4 Great Dragons, so we could do, again, Trials of the 4 Great Dragons the following turn. And that's kind of the whole core gameplay loop of the deck, is to be able to get up into your 4 Great Dragons and then use them over and over again and use the Trials over and over again. And then there's still just a whole bunch of different tech and tools that you could think about incorporating into the deck, all depending on what you want to gain out of the deck. So if you wanted to, you could run Nyaromon as your main Digitama and utilize all of the rookies in yellow that could Digivolve off of purple to really try to best utilize Nyaromon's cycling ability, and Candlemon actually isn't that bad of a card to use as a good inheritable when we're utilizing and comboing it with our Megidramon off of our Trials of the Four Great Dragons. So there is some pretty decent synergy there, but if you're just looking for a card to simply act as a good cycler, then we do have the starter deck Sistermon Blanc to use literally just for its on-play ability of discarding one card and drawing two for some good cycling. Or if you wanted to, you could even think about utilizing Renamon from BT10, just because it's another digger looking for, more specifically, our plugins and yellow tamers. So at worst, it's going to be helping us try to dig out our yellow tamer, but we do have the availability to play some plugins if you wanted to, and its inheritable ability just, again, synergizes with us utilizing options that cost 2 or more, which Trials of the Four Great Dragon is, where when we use those types of cards, then it's just adding some extra DP reduction. Then we do have Kazimon as a really good alternative level 4 Digimon for the deck to run, so that way we have that hybrid finish for when we're trying to be as aggressive with our cards as we possibly can. Then, because we're running Gatomon, we do have some other cards to interact with our Gatomon, so we do have the Gatomon X Antibody and Nefertimon as two very good cards to utilize our Gatomon, so that way we could gain its inheritable ability a little bit easier and a little bit faster to make our cards as effective as we possibly can. Then you're probably not going to need to run any other level 5s just because the level 5 package we have is already good enough, but we do have some good level 6s that we could play both from BT10 in the form of Venusmon, because we are interacting a little bit with Magnadramon in the form of a security attack minus, so that debuff does interact with how Venusmon wants to play, and Venusmon is still just a very powerful card for you to take advantage of. And then on top of that, we do have Sakuyamon Maid Mode, and like I said, you could think about splashing in a couple of plugins to add some extra defense, offense, or various other tech into the deck, depending on how you want to build the deck and trying to gain out of it. Then we do just have a couple of really decent generic cards that we could think about. So yellow has a slew of different good removal tech in the form of large body removals. So you could run Lonke Ariscado, or you could run Wyvern's Breath. Then we do also have a memory boost that we could think about playing to try to help rig our security and be able to gain some instant memory later in the form of reinforcing memory boost. And if we are trying to lean into that Venusmon, or if we even wanted to use it with Sakuyamon, then Holy Flame is still just a very good card to constantly try to apply security attack minus onto the opponent's Digimon. Then as far as some good alternative tamers go, TK Inkari is going to be a really good duo tamer to gain some extra memory, and again try to apply a minus 1000 DP on the opponent's Digimon to try to round out our removal. And on top of that, we even have TK and Izzy as another really good duo tamer to gain some extra memory for utilizing high level Digimon, which is, well, what the deck is full of. And on top of that, he's also going to apply that minus 1000 DP to try to increase and extend the range of our DP reduction based abilities. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.